It didn't happen every week. It probably didn't even happen every month. But oh boy, when it happened, it left its mark. Yeah, yeah. I can remember trying to say something to my grandmother, Dad's mother. I was in having a bit of a holiday with her, and I said something about Dad hitting Mum, and my grandmother just said, "Oh, we don't talk about that sort of thing." And I thought, okay. So that was kind of the end of that. What would happen was Dad would have these outbursts, and then Mum would have to do whatever she had to do to survive. You don't think about that as a child, that Mum still got up and made breakfast the next morning. You don't sort of, and I didn't even think as a child to ask her how she was. Like, everybody had to go into their own kind of survival mode. And then it could be a week, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later sometimes, before Dad would actually speak with the family again. And then everybody was so relieved that it was like, God, don't mention the war again, kind of thing. And so there was never any processing of it. And I'm so pleased that now there's counselling for children, that it's recognised, that there's counselling for the mother, and there's counselling for the perpetrators now too. But it's hard to put into words how it's just sheer terror. Like, we lived on a farm, and at this stage we didn't have electricity, and Dad put me outside. I had to get outside. It's pitch black. We're on a farm. There's only like lanterns and things like that inside, so it's pitch black outside. I love living out on the farm, but at night time, as a child, it was scary. And not only that, he shut the door. So it's kind of like you're abandoned. Like you're kind of locked in this fear of being abandoned because you need them. So when I wound up with this bloke who was violent, it's like you're still locked into that fear of abandonment. Don't leave me, like I can't survive without you. Like, still locked in that childhood framework. Because when you're a child, like, I had no idea how to go and find myself a house or get a job, or like I did. So in my mind, I had to find a way to fit this in. And also, it was a big thing in my family that when I did race up, Mum would invariably, even later on, say something like, "Oh, I told you, Jennifer, just stay away and you won't get hurt." And Dad would eventually say something like, "Oh, trust Jennifer to open her mouth." And so my siblings would be like, "Oh, Jennifer, why'd you have to say something?" As if me saying something set this whole thing in motion. Dad's building Mum upstairs, and I bolted up the back steps again to, leave Mum alone. And when I walked into the room, when I raced into the room, Mum's like sort of cowered into a corner on the floor, and Dad's pummeling her. And I'm saying, leave Mum alone. Now, I can't remember all of the incident, but the thing that I will never, ever forget is my mum looking into my eyes, and it was pure shame that she had, like, this, she just felt such shame that this was happening to her in front of her child. And I suppose things like that sort of taught me, well, there must be something wrong with us because we're women. Yeah. When I was about 16, I left town. I got a job, and I left town, and the first thing I did was meet a bloke who was very similar to my father, who had a severe drinking problem on top of it. So, yeah. We got married. I was pregnant, and in those days, and of course my mother had been a nurse, and she'd been a midwife in the time when babies were being removed from single mums. Now, I don't know if Mum actually removed any, but I know from things that I look back on that it affected her. It was just awful to her. And so Mum, and this is back in 75, so we're not far out of the days when babies were being removed. And so to Mum, it was like, well, you'll have to get married. It's the only thing that's going to be able to save things here. That's what you have to do. That's what helps you. It didn't matter that this man was violent and a drunk and God knows what else. And we're both so young. She said, you can leave him the next day if you want to. You just got to get married. You've got to have that bit of paper, you know. And I remember thinking, well, if I'm going to go to the trouble of marrying him, I might as well try and make it work, you know. And the time that I actually left the house wasn't my decision. I had got a belting from him. He had gone off to the pub after this, and as he was leaving, he said, and you'll get another one when I get back. And I knew I was going to. What the hell I was doing to do this, I don't know. And while I'm sitting at the table, and I was at a point where everything rational that I had ever thought had left me. And luckily, a young friend came around with her boyfriend, and she said, did you get another hiding kind of thing? And I said, yeah, and I'm going to get another one when he gets back from the pub. And I can remember just sitting there and there was just nothing left of me. I could not think, there's just nothing left. And I can remember that this girl said to her boyfriend, get the kids and put them in the car. And she said, you get in the car, to me. She said, I'm going in. She was like a regular visitor. She said, I'm going in to get you some clothes. You're going around to Mum's place. I look back at that and think, you know, that could very well have been my last day on earth. I could write a book on parenting because I know now everything you're not supposed to do. It was a struggle. I mean, I know in my heart, I wanted so much for them to have something different. At the same time, I'm still caught up in my own patterns. I hadn't let those go, you know, and yeah. I tried ever so hard for them to have a different life. And this is where the counselling has now made a difference, and which wasn't available at that time. You can know that getting belted around and your kids seeing it is not healthy, but that doesn't tell you what you can do. I have no roadmap for an alternative to that. My kids have seen me just struggle with life. I'm determined that they are going to see this lady who turned it round, you know, even as an older woman kind of thing, yeah.
Do you think you have?
I think I've started to. There's still lots more I want to do. Yeah. You know, a lot of DV is beyond words. It's, you know, so it's going to take more than words. I say to the workers, look after yourselves, because I know this is tough from the point of view of someone who's lived through it, but you know, all that vicarious trauma that those workers go through, it must be horrendous. And to a lady who can relate to what I'm saying, who may be going through it now, please step out. There will be someone who'll be waiting for you with their hand out. And and trust yourself that you're okay. Trust yourself, yeah.